Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep. Kinda
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Fold and lock your door. 5, 6, got crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
All right, welcome everybody to the Cult Classic Horror Show. This is Danny Bonin, one of your hosts.
And Scotty Bonin back with you guys. Welcome.
We are
The Blood Brothers.
And we have a special guest on the show today. You guys probably know him best from his portrayal of Poncho in the raft sequence of Creepshow 2, which we recently covered.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also been in Point Break. He's been in plenty of one-hour episodes. Actually, Picket Fences stood out to me because my mom used to watch that. But we have Daniel Beer on the show. He's going to be talking about his novel. So, hey, Daniel, how's it going?
Hey, I'm with the infamous Blood Brothers.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. The one and onlys.
Yeah, the one and onlys. That's correct.
I just love it. I love it.
So yeah, we're happy to have you on the show, man. We're huge fans of Creepshow 2. We just, as you sort of found us, because we just covered that in a recent episode, and
I listened to a lot of it.
Yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
man.
we appreciate that, and you know, it's awesome that you're able to reach out, and we could talk about your book too coming up here. So that's cool.
You probably listened to mostly.
Thanks for having.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate
yeah,
it.
of course.
Yeah, I was saying you probably listened to mostly the raft scene that we covered. That was our favorite one of Creepshow 2. So.
No, you're just saying that because I'm on. Come on.
No, it was my favorite.
Cool. Well, cool. We have some obviously questions we want to ask you, Daniel, but then we can get into the novel that you wrote, and we can send the viewers or listeners, I should say, to it, and we'll just have a grand old time.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
But yeah, well, I guess us being the Cult Classic Horror Show here, we'll start off with maybe a Creepshow 2 sort of discussion to give the fans what they want, but then I do want to get into the book, because I know that the fans are going to love that. It's sort of I don't want to call it a horror novel, but it's sort of has that aura of creepiness, right?
Nah, it's an elegantly haunting novel. It's more all great stories and books and movies are ghost stories.
Yeah.
And the person is haunted either by a physical monster, the Blob and Creepshow, or by their own demons and ghosts about something that happened to them. And my novel, The Silence of Remembering, is more along the lines of that invisible monster that happens to all of us in our own personal lives when we have some kind of trauma or something like, or death or something like that. So to me, I mean that to me, it's kind of the same in that sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's what I categorize it under.
Sure.
So, and it is fiction and it is literary fiction. And I was telling Danny earlier, we talked for a minute before I came on the show, that I don't think that the horror community is narrow in their taste, and I don't underestimate the horror community. I think they're incredibly intelligent and they're sensitive, and I think they like story, and a good story.
Oh yeah.
And I can get into where I came up with that from a horror convention I went to. I have great stories about that.
Yeah, share.
So,
please share.
So yeah,
definitely.
I did this horror convention in Winchester, the Fourth Day Slasher, I think it was called.
Oh, nice.
And it was my first one ever, and I did a Q&A, and it just this thing took off. Everybody was talking about why don't they make movies with better stories, and they like the stories from Creepshow 2 was a great story, and they were talking about stories. And I was sitting there and I was looking at the audience. Now, the horror community, they kind of dress, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of like goth, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
like heavy metal type stuff.
Well, especially at the conventions.
Yeah, and I just love it. It was like Halloween in there. It was just great. And I was sitting there thinking about how like a studio executive or anybody trying to make some horror movie would just go, well, look at this crowd. They just want blood on the wall. They don't care about anything. They don't care about stories, underestimating their intelligence. And I just didn't walk away with that. I just did not walk away with that. I said, my gosh, they really want, story and character. So that's why I'm reaching out to the horror community for my novel, because I think that they'll identify with it. Also, I think that whole horror community, I think they're incredibly sensitive people, and I think actually they've gone through a lot of trauma in their life.
Yes.
So they'll be able to identify with it. And actually, I did this chat interview a couple of years ago, and I brought up something, and I was like, "Whoa, I don't know if I'm gonna put people off here, but I look at horror movies and I think they deal with a psychological trauma and with abuse and that kind of thing. And I think people who love horror movies go to horror movies and they kind of feel in control of the monster because they know it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of symbolic of abuse or trauma in one's life. And Stephen King is very open about, he had a pretty horrific, I think, childhood, and he had trauma and everything like that, and he put it into writing, horror.
Yeah.
Books.
Yeah.
And my character, Alex in Silence of Remembering, the lead character, and he has abuse in the family and the trauma of his little sister dying. So I do think that the horror community, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And when I typed that and when I said that in the chat thing, I got a response last, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. And it was almost like it was a feeling of relief from people listening to me going kind of like, oh, okay, I can talk about this with Daniel. He's, you know what I mean? Like they didn't like, and I go, no. It was almost like, wow, thank you. And we kind of had a little bit of chat about that dynamic going on. And I just thought, they're just really intelligent.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good move to go after the horror community too, because they're such devout fans that they'll follow you out of the genre. And we've noticed this. If you listen to any more of our podcast, we're huge Evil Dead fans, and it's crazy. We interviewed some of those folks, and it's crazy how they followed them up and out of the genre into whatever else they're doing.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
especially like Bruce Campbell. They've people who loved him in Evil Dead now watch him in Briscoe County Jr. and things that have nothing to do with horror anymore, just because that's how devout they are. So I think it was really smart for you to lean into the horror community because you have a fan base there.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's considered literary fiction, which is, considered, very intellectual or something like that. And I just wasn't going to underestimate the intelligence of anybody out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just my writing style. It's simple. It's not overwritten. And the whole trick is to write something very complex and do it in a very, very simple way. That's a sign of really, really good writing. You take out the adjectives and you just try to find the strongest verbs.
Sure.
Oh, totally.
And also showing too. A lot of showing. Great writing is showing. And I'll give you an example of in The Raft. The first minute or 30 seconds of that movie establishes all of the Raft segment, establishes the relationships. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally.
In the car?
Yeah, it does.
When you guys are driving up, or I say you guys, but I mean your character, and then the rest of, I guess it's you and the other guy, and then the two girls.
I do something, and it shows the whole dynamic and what's going to happen, Do you know what it is? What my action is in the car?
You
If you don't know, it's okay. I'm
I,
trying to make this interesting.
you refuse the joint, right? Too. You refuse. No.
Smoking. What I do is my hand touches Jeremy's hand.
Okay.
yeah.
Whatever her, I forget her. What was her character's name?
Oh God,
I
we have
probably
in the notes
have it.
right
Rachel?
here.
I think so. I think it's Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it touches her hand, and Paige sees it, and it shows that I'm attracted to her, and it shows Paige
yeah.
looking at me like whatever, and it and Satterfield's oblivious, but that little action there shows the relationship without having to say anything, and it's very smart filmmaking, and I guarantee you the audience picks that up, and then subconsciously throughout the movie now they're stuck with that. You know, and that's great. I mean, that's great writing, whether it's in a movie or whether it's in fiction. You know, and in my book, you're constantly showing thing and showing stuff and showing stuff. You know,
Sure.
and I just don't think people want it spelled out for them. You know what I mean? I think it makes them feel smart to figure that out.
Yeah, true enough. I totally agree with you.
And that's
on that.
character development too. You know, it's relationship and character development. So
Yeah. I was actually I read the first chapter of your novel, and it was very relatable. You know, just reading it. It was very easy to read, and just to think what was going on, and I think I related to it, and I think other people can.
how'd you relate to it?
Just how, you know, this kid's lost some, or I guess Alex has lost his sister, and I haven't lost like a human being, but I know people who have lost like siblings, and it's just something that I can relate to their loss. You know, I have a close friend that lost his sister, and it was very, like, I saw Alex's pain through him too. But I know that Twigs she's kind of the narrator, right?
Right.
Which I love it from her point of view, coming from she's in purgatory, but she's narrating the whole thing, and it just, the writing is freaking awesome. I just love it.
Oh, thanks. So you thought it moved and it was simple.
Yes.
It wasn't trying to be like writerly or anything.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't like hard to get through. It was very simple, and it flowed nicely. It kept my attention, and
First, let me just say something about Purgatory. And you can cut me off any time because I feel comfortable with you guys. So I'm going to probably be really, be kind of chatty here. So
No
and
problem.
let me know if I get a little too literary wonky, because I don't want to get too wonky here.
Yeah.
So the purgatory thing, right? I looked up the definition, and as I was doing this, I said,
I actually did too.
Purgatory. Oh, you're intelligent.
Yeah.
That you did your homework. Nicely done.
I did.
Nicely done. So purgatory is where the dead go, and they're there until they are cleansed of their sins, and then they go on to heaven.
Yeah.
So if you switch the definition of purgatory and you don't put dead there, you put living. And so I thought it's where the living put the dead and put themselves until they can release the dead person, till they feel cleaned of their sins or of their guilt and everything. And my lead character, Alex, has a tremendous amount of guilt of not being able to save his sister the night they were hit by a car.
Drunk driver.
So I kind of flipped the whole purgatory thing, and I just thought, that's a little more. That's kind of really what it's about,
Yeah.
And the whole concept of I don't know. I always feel, if you've lost somebody, you feel like they're still with you.
Yeah, like they're right by you.
So I thought that was an interesting, just a different twist on the whole purgatory thing, And I also, it's symbolic of the age that the character is. He's in his 20s, and there's a ton of books for teenagers coming of age books and adult midlife crisis. But the 20-something years are those in between purgatory years.
Yeah.
Ergo, my person telling the story is in purgatory, talking about her brother who's in his 20s that can't get over this situation and this time in his life of being in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Now, that's the thing I'm talking about, like not telling but showing. And I'm telling you now, this, and somebody who reads it will subconsciously put those different layers of symbolism or metaphor together. And see, I believe people want to feel intelligent by putting that together. Do you know what I mean? Where you go, oh, I think it meant this, and I think it meant that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know people like to be entertained and just a great murder mystery or a great horror book or whatever.
Yeah.
I also do think people like to figure out the subtext of stories, the subtext of character relationships, and all that stuff. So yeah, and the loss, the loss is for other types of loss than somebody passing away. Actually, it's kind of a loss. It's a lost childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From a terrible childhood, you've lost your childhood, and that's what else that Twiggs, who's narrating the story, is a representative of a lost childhood in a way.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's kind of it's layered that way, which you want it to be layered.
Yeah.
Am I being wonky? Or
No. What I wanted to actually mention before we got too deep into the story was that if people, I just imagine people might be listening to this going, where can I read the first chapter? What do I? So I know that I found it and you sent me the link, obviously, but I went ahead and created just one that's easy. So if the people listening want to check it out, you can go to cultclassichorror.com/beer, BEER. And I forwarded that to the actual link, which is on linkshares.com/yourbook. But just to make
you're making it when you post this thing, the people can easily click on.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are listening to this straight from our website, it's in the description right down below. Obviously, if you found this on the Facebook post, it's in the Facebook post. But if you downloaded this, you're listening to it while you're driving or something. When you get a chance, just go to cultclassichorror.com/beer. And that's where it's at. That's where his book's at, and you can read some excerpts of it there. You can pre-order it, which is what we want you to do, because I know that, and I don't want to make this a long explanation, but it's almost like if you get enough pre-orders, they'll blow it into full production, right, Daniel? Is that basically?
Yeah, it's Let me say something about the pre-orders. Is that you'll get a signed copy too by me.
Ooh, nice.
So, and once it hits that pre-order, the amount to go to full-blown publication, you're probably not going to get a signed copy because then it's out to, you're going to order it on Amazon or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you also get an ebook for free.
Mm-hmm.
And like Adam, the VP of Inkshares, explained it to me. He said, yeah, the publishing industry is kind of stale, and we want people, if you're reading a hard copy of a book and then you have to go someplace, well, you just you have an ebook for free.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a brilliant idea and a great deal.
Oh, yeah.
Get a signed paperback copy by me, which I think will become, a collector's item. People, ask me to sign all kinds of stuff. So that's the other cool thing about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a hybrid publishing. It's not quite like crowdfunding, you know what I mean? Because you're getting a return on your investment. It's not like you're putting money into something and then the company goes and makes gazillions of dollars. You don't see anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I never really.
Well, it's really simple because I just went through it and pre-ordered the book too, and it was. Yeah, it's super simple. You go in, you order it. If it doesn't if for some reason doesn't get funded, then they refund you your money. But obviously we want to get enough people there to get this thing going out to us.
Right, you don't lose. Yeah, you don't lose anything. And they are, they act like a publishing house. They're with Ingram, which is the largest distribution for books and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting. They're kind of a disruptor in that whole publishing community.
Yeah,
and I think they're doing it really well. So,
so if you guys listening and you're not at a link, just go to cultclassichorror.com/beer and make sure you pre-order it. If you actually stick around. Once we get to our horror halftime in a little bit here, I'll talk
Horror
about.
halftime?
Yeah, we're not there yet, but we'll get there.
Yes, we'll be there soon. You will know once we're there.
We may talk for a little while here.
Yeah, no, don't worry. So, but yeah, no. Speaking of all this talk, I'd sort of, if you don't mind, like just circle back to some film stuff, and then I want to end off again with the book so that we can drive the listeners back over there.
Sure.
So yeah, let's. Well, obviously, let's jump into Creepshow 2 first, and then I do have just some minor questions about some of the other films you've been a part of, but yeah, Creepshow 2, I realized was I listened to a couple other interviews that you had, and I heard you say that it was technically your second on camera role after getting into acting, right?
Yeah, you're very good. You did your research. I'm impressed with you guys.
Hey, you know what?
Hey, whoever's listening, these Bread Brothers, they're very good.
Appreciate
They're very
that.
good.
Thanks, Daniel. You're the best.
And
yeah.
you have a great on-air demeanor. I think you could like like live radio show and do other stuff or morning show. You guys are great.
Oh,
Hey,
good,
well,
man.
thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
We have a ton of fun, so we love doing this. So appreciate having you, man.
But yeah, you started
So
out.
yeah, that was my second. That was, I believe, my second gig. Yeah.
Okay. Hell High was the first one. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Which people in the horror community know it's stunning.
I will admit that I didn't watch it. I know it's on. I saw it on. It's there on YouTube if the fans want to watch it, and I might
right.
go watch it now. But
I'm gonna watch it for sure.
but yeah, we'll have to watch
Kinda like
it.
teen slasher exploitation type thing.
Nice.
Do you think that in any way like helped you move on to Creepshow 2, or were they sort of totally unrelated from each other?
No, I mean, Hell High, I got my first month in New York. Mm-hmm. I really didn't know what I was really doing. I got it because I was a starting high school quarterback, and that's the character I was playing, and I could throw.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And I kind of looked like the quarterback or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So you were actually playing.
get the gig. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So you were actually playing football in high school. In high school, was it? And you got cast
Yeah, that
in the
character
movie.
was supposed to be the high school quarterback. So, and I think I always remember auditions very, very clearly. And I think, I remember them asking me all that. And I was like, yeah. So, but the Creepshow 2, I can tell you, it's a good story about how I got it. If you want
Yeah, definitely.
that, or did you have another question?
No. That's great. Yeah, tell us the backstory.
We
on
love
that.
the story.
So people ask me, I never read anything by Stephen King. I didn't know it was a short story. So my agent, Michael Kingman, called me up and said, Bubba, he always called me Bubba. He said, Bubba, you got to come up here. And I was like, okay. And he wouldn't tell me what it's for. And his building was in the Times Square buildings. I started out in New York. And he said, okay, we got to go down to Leonard Finger's office. And the office was in the same building. And we're going to get you in on this film, Creepshow 2. And I was like, what? Because usually they submit you,
Yeah.
and because they didn't want to see me. And they had gone to New York and Los Angeles twice, and they couldn't find my role. And originally they submitted me for Satterfield's part, the football player, but I was way too skinny, and it was already cast.
Okay.
So he literally walked me in the office and said, you have to see Daniel, my client. We're standing there. I remember standing there in front of, the receptionist, and we're not leaving until you do. It was just
Nice.
Wow.
And then I went in and I auditioned. I remember Michael Gornick was in the room, and the producer.
Yep.
And I'll tell you a real inside story. It was a scene. I just remember the scene was about the Blob getting me or something like that. And I remember sitting in the chair, and after I read it, he said, there's this big thing that's going to be chasing you. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And I looked at him. I said, okay, but it's not in the room right here, so I have to come up with something else to make me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what I came up with, I'm a method actor, right? I studied, and I'm a member of the Actors Studio. Mm-hmm. And if I stay in a sauna too long, I get really kind of nutty and get me out of here. And I still remember that's what I worked on when I did the scene. I said, I'm going to just work on that I'm in a sauna for too long. And you do it sensorially,
Wow.
And I'll just play the scene from that. And that helped me get it. And I bet you was the only person that was believable about that or whatever. So,
That's cool. That's
awesome.
cool.
so that's the little story about how I got it.
Well,
So,
so did you?
That's awesome.
Were you at all familiar with the original Creep Show before learning of the audition?
yeah, I get asked that question. No, I wasn't. You know, as an actor, you just kind of go in and you just want to do a great performance and like that's it. And if it's a really great director or you hear it's a great project, then you're real excited about it. And if it's not, you're like, oh shit, I
Yeah.
okay, guess I'll do this type of thing. And you walk out and personally, I walk out and I just forget about it.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. That's it's sort of like you're like, oh shit, but then how much does it pay, right?
Yeah.
Yes, not that much that way. I don't really, I don't really. I'm not really, greedy about that. I always tell I said, don't lose the job over money.
Yeah.
In my book, in my novel, I write a lot about Hollywood, and about that, auditions and about the parties and being on set, and I'm an insider, so it's really the way it is, and that's the thing. I hate the way people write about Hollywood. They dehumanize everybody. They make them into cliches. They make what it's like being on a set into a cliche. They make directors and just everybody into cliches. They dehumanize everything, and it's like it's written by somebody who watches TMZ and takes stories out of there or Us Magazine, and it's always driven me nuts. So in my book, there's scenes where he's on set shooting a movie and what's that like, and going into a casting office, and then the whole Hollywood party thing, and his sister's like, trying to navigate him through this thing.
Yeah, because Alex is the actor. He's trying to go to Hollywood, and
yeah, he's in Hollywood. I mean, it's I call it autobiographical fiction. You know what I mean? And you just it's fictionalized stuff that I've been through, and some of it's like really funny too, where you're just like, Jesus. So. I've always hated it. I mean, I like The Last Tycoon was a great book about Hollywood, and What Makes Sammy Run is supposed to be really good. But a lot of them, when they write about actors and stuff, I'm like, this isn't the way it is. It's not what goes on in a wardrobe and with wardrobe and in a makeup trailer.
Yeah.
And whenever I post anything on my Facebook fan page about behind the scenes stuff, like I just did a Rizzoli and Isles, people are fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by it. Because it's not really shown right. It's not shown, it just isn't. It just isn't.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write about what's it like to hit your mark and to have that pressure and to be working, he's working with the big Hollywood, actress. And then what's it like to go to Hollywood parties and with the agent and this and that. And it's hard to navigate it, man.
Yeah.
Really hard to navigate it. And not to write it in a cliche way where,
without
it's
the
a
hype and
guy
stuff.
doing drugs and everything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we appreciate that kind of thing too. We're actually, aside from this podcast, we're near Denver, and we like to dabble in film and commercial work here too. And so so we
do it a little bit, trying.
Yeah, and so we it's always cool we try to read stuff like that. Like what's it like out there? What's it like? And obviously, we don't want to hear the cliches.
Yeah, we want to hear what really happens and the real stories and stuff. So that's
the way
great.
the way that I wrote it was when you're reading a scene about, say they're shooting a scene, they're shooting. I have one shooting a scene in a bar where I love reading fiction where you're learning too. Whether you're learning about, if the book takes place in Denver. And the writer is so good about talking about, the baseball stadium, and before the baseball stadium was here, it was this, and I remember it. Do you know what I mean? Where you just learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, while we're talking about on-set stuff, I wanted to ask, what was it? I guess what was it like working with Gornick? Was he a cool guy? Was he pretty much wasn't a slave driver? Or?
No, I say this. I always say this. I absolutely just love the guy. He was the best. He was comforting. He was like my dad. He had my back. And I listened to your podcast. You were right about me. You're the only person that I've heard talk about it, other than me, about how I got hypothermia and
yeah.
it worked me and stuff. And I was standing there at lunch. See, I could fictionalize this and write about it.
Yeah, I want to hear about
I
the
was standing there-
hypothermia
I was-
story.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
I was standing there at lunch, and somebody said, "Daniel, you're green." I said, "You don't look good." And, I'm an athlete. I played in the New York City Pro Basketball Leagues. I was offered a pro tryout overseas. I started boxing with Freddie Roach. Some trainer asked me to turn pro.
Yeah, I
So
read-
as an athlete, you're just like,
Whatever.
F it.
Yeah,
I gotta
whatever.
gut this out. You got to gut it out.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like, no. They're like, no, Dan, you don't look okay. I better go get somebody. And then, like everybody started to come over, and I just remember being out of it. I mean, out of it. And they said, we got to take you to the hospital. And they still, the producer still wanted to work me. And Michael Gornick said, if you work him, I am walking off of this movie.
Wow.
And let me tell you something. When you're 19 or 20 years old, and I had nobody in the world other than my agent to talk to, but I had nobody.
God,
You know, no family, no nothing that would support me. I mean, I've been doing this on my own.
yeah.
And when you're like that, and somebody says, I'll walk off, are you kidding me? Hey, that guy's tremendous.
Yeah. And he's the director making things happen.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Gosh.
great.
Yeah.
And you,
So-
I mean, that water was freezing cold.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't take a lot of things into account. It was a fresh water lake or something. And it was 58 degrees.
Oh my God.
Well, and they even say that in the movie, right?
Yeah, and I was really skinny, and I have the least amount of body fat, so mine was really severe. And I have a permanent cold weather injury. My brother was in the military, had a permanent cold injury to his feet and hands, and when we were swimming in the ocean, I was like, "Damn, bro, I get cold so quick." And he said, "It's probably from creep show." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Once you get hypothermia, like in a part of your body or your body, you get cold really quickly."
Yeah.
So, because I wouldn't get cold that quickly, but I get cold real quickly right now. So I have like a permanent injury from that thing.
Jeez.
I don't know if you said this line, but I remember the line because you guys are talking about getting laid, and there's the girls there, and it's either you or the other guy that says, "It's too damn cold to get laid. My balls are ice cubes." And that's
That
when
was
you
probably me.
Yeah, I think that was your line because you guys were like walking into the lake and it's time to get laid tonight and too damn cold to get laid. My balls are ice cubes.
I'll just say something else about Michael Gornick.
Yeah.
He brought that film in like on time and under budget. And the weather things that we had to go through, we had weather down there. We had like some crazy weird weather that came in that they
Yeah,
had to shoot production for that too. He's a genius for doing that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys were Arizona, right? Is that?
Yeah, it was in Prescott, Arizona. That shoot, when we were down there, there were so many things going wrong. The blob thing, 2 weeks before, it didn't work. There's a great documentary on that on YouTube, and they had to fucking go by this, see the pants of those special effects guys are just geniuses.
Yeah.
I mean, what Michael Gornick did with that thing is just, it was just a miracle.
Wow.
And it opened up number 2 at the box office.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
And I want to.
Gornick, all you fans out there, love Creep Show 2. Send a letter to Michael Gornick because he brought that thing in. He sailed that sucker right into port. And let me tell you something, it was rough.
Yeah, gosh.
And what? So how much in contact were you with like Nicotero and Berger? The effects guys.
None.
Really? I figured because you didn't
showed
really
up at
have.
work. You show up and you work, and I mean, shit. I had a paramedic on set with me after I went to complete the thing, and I had to get oxygen,
Jeez.
and I could only go in the water like 2 times.
Wow.
They wouldn't allow it over more. I could have probably died in that thing, gone into shock.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. No, I had to take it. I do 2. The second time was easy because I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh no, I can keep swimming." They're going like, because I don't feel anything. And they said, "No, that's not good."
Yeah.
And then I'd get out and I would I couldn't take naps, but I was so, what that does to you, I would fall asleep for like an hour or 2, and then they wake me up and they say, "Okay, I gotta get back in that water."
Oh, jeez.
Oh my god.
And I complained once. I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
So So was it weird? I know this is early on in your career. Was that whole like I call it like the date rape scene? Is that like awkward or what?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people, they talk about that constantly. But here's the thing, and talk about story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that scene doesn't take place and I get killed at the end, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because you go, he shouldn't have got killed. He was a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Horror movies, they're about revenge, and you always the bad person gets killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Cisco was an asshole. You wanted him to die, but yeah, it's like you.
Right, so yeah, I've had to do love scenes before and sex scenes before. They're very by the numbers. That whole thing is like you kiss here, you move there, you kiss there, you move there, and it's fucking there's fucking 30 people watching. It's no fun. It's very technical.
Yeah.
It's just really technical. And she was a pro, and I always make sure that the woman I'm working with feels comfortable and everything. But there's nothing for me sexual about it. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have a
just
scene
all
in my
acting.
book.
Yeah.
I have a love scene in my book, a sex scene in my book, and it's hilarious.
Nice.
And it's hilarious, and the whole thing how I get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's we'll
I'm
have
definitely gonna have to
Because
read your book.
I thought, people don't really get to know what it's like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To get to be in it, and I kind of juxtapose that the actress is actually kind of could be a stripper,
yeah.
and my lead actor is hasn't gotten any for a long time,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the humor and the irony, and what's it like to be in front of all those people and and he keeps screwing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's
People watching
So yeah, that's the thing about the book. There's just stuff like that, that
that's
I think
great.
really dig.
well, it's funny that we're
Visualize it.
it's funny that we're even talking about this. I told you that we'll dabble in like commercial work and short film out here, and so at the end of
You shoot it.
yeah, what is it? At the end of I don't know, like next month, I'm shooting this just short horror film that's going to festivals or whatever, and it has this like sex scene in it. I've never done that before, and in my head I'm thinking like, shit, like what if I get there and I'm like all aroused or some shit, and but then I'm like, but really?
Wait a second, you're directing it or you're
No,
acting?
I'm in it.
Right.
And so but the way you said it, I bet you get there and there's like people watching and they're telling you what to do, and it just all the sexuality like leaves it,
No, I mean I don't know. Unless unless somebody's into being watched by 30 people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
also I did some stuff in acting class too. You know what I mean? Where it's not quite like that, but I studied for a long time, and
Block them out.
it's part of this learning technique and training and stuff like that. That's where that comes in.
So
block those 30 people out of your mind and be in the moment.
So how I know you guys shot down in Arizona. I know they shot was it the first one down in Arizona? They shot two.
Old Chief Woodenhead.
Yeah, Woodenhead. Obviously, you were probably totally separate from any other
Yeah,
shooting going on, right?
I mean, I know. I got to meet Holt McCallaghan, and I are still friends.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Well, I know, and he's doing fantastic. So that's the only person that I still know.
Okay. Was there any excitement to be part of Creepshow 2 because of some of the names that were in the original Creepshow? Like Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson.
I did not. No, it was. I thought it was a. You're going like at that time, horror was considered kind of like hokey and bottom.
Sure.
I mean, if that movie came out now as number 2 at the box office, we'd be on Entertainment Tonight and we'd be all over the place. No one asked me for an interview.
Wow.
Really?
Number 2 at the box office, no interviews.
No, because horror was considered, especially that 80s horror slasher movie was considered like a joke.
Wow. But everyone loved it. Let's go see a horror movie. That's why it did so good.
Right.
But then
it just wasn't. It just didn't get that kind of respect.
like other movies would.
I had no. I didn't know. You have no idea. Lots of times when you do a movie, you have no idea. I mean, I was in Point Break. Everybody asked me, it'd be this, one of the best action films, and I said, no. You're just doing your job, and then you you have no idea how it's going to look. You're in front of the camera, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Did
Yeah.
you have any? I know they were keeping you guys separate as far as filming, the effects guys. Did you meet or talk with George Romero at all?
No,
No.
no. I mean, I don't know. Unless I did, I don't remember. I mean, there's so many people on set.
He just
You know
did the
what I mean?
screenplay.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I've done stuff in TV, and you get introduced to somebody, and I don't remember the name. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go hit my mark and get this done. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with Rizzoli, Ken, the producer, I hung out and talked with him a lot. And everybody's doing their job. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, people don't understand. It's a Swiss watch what's going on there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's people have the roles that they have to do. You know,
Yeah.
so
Everyone's just trying to do their job.
How long
Yeah.
how long did it take you guys to actually shoot the whole sequence of the raft scene?
I don't know.
Like,
It's only
how many
supposed to
days?
take, I think, 10 days, but I think because of all the stuff that went on, I think it took like a couple weeks or 3 weeks,
Oh wow!
Jeez.
something like that.
So
Because
did you guys have like hotels you stayed in or camped
yeah,
out?
we were in Prescott. It was beautiful, man.
Oh
Down-
yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
it was just what a brutal shoot.
Yeah,
Wow.
I bet it was, bro. I was just because you hear about those like older movies, like '80s movies, that the budget wasn't that big and the
cutting
shoot was
corners.
brutal and they're cutting corners trying to
Well, that's
squeeze as
like
much as
time stuff.
possible.
This was physically. I mean, I got hospitalized, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so brutal, and the water, swimming in that stuff.
And then
You know-
after you're hospitalized, you're like, yep, you have to go right back on set.
Yeah, and what I had to do was I was chattering like crazy and shivering.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to go, roll camera, da da da, and I'd have to like relax and stop from doing that.
Yeah. Like
Jeez.
calm
It was
yourself down.
also they were throwing water on me to match the shot on us, and then it was windy, and we're standing on that raft because we had to look wet.
Yep.
Oh,
You know,
man.
so all that's the logistics of that thing and shooting on water. It's the hardest thing to do is to shoot on water.
Gee, I bet.
You know, you have to push stuff out on that thing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I take my hat off to all those guys, man. The effects guys, just the crew on that thing, the crew. I mean, what they did was just to deal with that stuff was just stunning.
And weren't they? I read up a little bit on it, but that whole blob thing, I read a little bit how they created it. But didn't they have like divers working it underneath them
Yeah.
and everything?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And nobody complained.
No.
You know,
Jeez.
I mean, nobody complained. The actors, everybody was, they were all just real champs about it. You know.
Jeez.
That's amazing. God, being in the water in a wetsuit, trying to run that thing for hours on end too. Wow.
Yeah, see, that's what I write about this in my book is that you see films totally different.
Mm-hmm.
I see films and I don't really see the film. I see the memories and what was going on the set and what was going on in my life. And that's kind of what I put in The Silence of Remembering.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is that feeling, and I use that metaphor at the end of the book, and that's what people, and you're not because you're not in the industry, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, if I watch something, even if I see myself on a TV show or a commercial I did or something like that, I remember what was going on around shooting it. You know what I mean? It's where I was in my life at that time, I mean, like on Creepshow 2, my roommate was Thomas Calabro, who was on Melrose Place for 10 years, and Michael Mancini, and we were two starving actors living in a railroad flat, and I was, studying, going to acting class, and I had no money. I remember going to the airport, and Paige and Jeremy was there, and Paige, was like, I had $20 left, and Paige said, "Hey, I need some money to get some batteries for my something, and I need, some money to get this, and I don't have it." I said, "Well, here, you can have my last 20, take my $20. I didn't tell her it was my last 20.
Yeah.
I gave,
Of course.
and
not.
I just remember thinking, okay, great, I'm going to have rent when I come back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a funny story about that is that when I run into Paige every now and then for some reason. So I ran into Paige years later up in Malibu, and I said, Paige, and she took care of me after we wrapped, right? It took me, for some reason, a while to get paid. So when I came back, I had no money.
Wow.
So Paige said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take you out to dinner. I'll make sure you have, I'll feed you until you get your check." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I told her afterwards. I said, "Paige, I never told you, but I gave you my last 20, and then you were taking care. You bought me some dinners there
Yeah.
when I got back." And she said, "Well, that's just karma, Daniel." But like that's what I remember. I don't remember. I don't. I don't even like to watch myself.
Yeah.
Those stories.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's kind of what I juxtapose in my book is going back and forth between that. You know what I mean? It's a guy in Hollywood, but there's also it's his own personal life. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's great too, because viewers and readers, they always see the movie and they don't see what happens behind the scenes and what the actor is going through, and what his real life's about. So it's cool to portray
And it's
that
not
within the book.
cliched. It's like
Yeah.
anybody else's life. You know what I mean? That's why I said about things being cliche. I'm going like, these people writing these books. That's not the way it is. I mean, I've been, I'm in this community. I know actors and actresses. That's not the way they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That may be one thing that somebody had a tantrum on the set, so somebody wrote about it, and it was published.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And on whatever, and the stuff you read, it's great. Like I know famous people, and I know stuff, and they're going like, "Well, this person feels this about this person." I'm going like, "That's not. I know that person.
It's not
That's
true.
it."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's bullshit.
It's just you know what I mean? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wait,
Even the biggest diva and the biggest a-hole on set is human.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. See?
I think we should pause for a second. Take some time out for the horror halftime, real quick.
What does that sound?
Oh,
It is the horror halftime.
I failed to explain to Daniel that a sound will be inserted indicating the horror halftime later on.
Awesome. I can't wait to know what that sound is.
Yes.
It's
You will
actually
hear it.
the Psycho shower. So you'll hear it. You'll hear it.
You'll hear it.
Anyways, but yeah, this is just a time, as you listeners know, we just take a quick 2-minute, well, not even that, like 30-second break to assign you something to do, and then if you do it and we like it, we give you free shit. That's basically what it is. So,
Yeah. Best halftime ever.
usually we're talking about a film, we have you post a meme or something, or a video or something like that, but since we're interviewing Daniel and he has this novel, we want you guys to go pre-order this thing.
The Silence of Remembering.
Yeah, so we want you to I created the link especially for this, so cultclassichorror.com/beer. Go there, pre-order the book, and then you'll get a receipt in the email. Mine took like a couple minutes, maybe like 5 minutes after you do it, but you'll get a receipt. You need to screenshot that receipt or save it. And if you screenshot it, just throw it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/cultclassichorror. Post it to the page. If you absolutely can't screenshot and you need to forward me your email, you can send it to us at Danny@cultclassichorror.com. And we'll select from whoever sends it, and we'll give you some free shit. So probably a T-shirt, maybe a keychain.
Yeah.
We got what the stuff we
Some
send
awesome free horror stuff.
And the book will be signed by me.
Yes. And the book will be signed by Daniel Beer.
So get this,
the one and only.
You're pre-ordering the book. You're getting the book for your pre-order, signed by Daniel, and then you're also getting a chance to win some free shit from us. So definitely go do that.
It's a win-win situation,
Yeah.
guys.
So cool. That concludes the horror halftime, and we'll jump back into it now.
Yeah.
Back here. So yeah, we were talking about. I sort of want to take this time to we're talking about cliches, working with some famous actors. I do want to just talk about Point Break for a second. I mean, how was that experience? Was that up to that point like the biggest set you had worked on then?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess it was a big. I mean, God, I never even. You just don't even think. I don't even think like that in a way. I mean,
Because you just show up and you do what you're told and you work. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I remember. I mean, like I said, I remember kind of where I was in my life and what happened getting that job, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
funny stuff on the set stuff. You know, I remember I almost didn't. I was submitted for one of the, and you see, correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't these stories more interesting about like the little like detail stuff
Oh
about?
yeah.
Oh
I'm-
yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
Oh, I totally they are. They definitely.
That's
are.
why we have the interviews. That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah, they don't want to see all the glitz and glam. They want to hear what.
Well, the cliche
Behind the
thing would be
scene,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it was really fun and I had a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was trying to
Yeah.
come up with some kind of like, what sticks in my mind, because I was thinking, well, it'd be something that I'd like to hear about, some actor or some writer or somebody that,
yeah.
that I like. So no, I almost, I just moved out. They submitted me. I had really long hair at that time and I'd cut it off. So they submitted me for one of the surfers and I was coming back and forth from New York to Los Angeles. And my agent at the time said, you cut your hair all off. We submitted for the surfer. And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, geez, you can't go in there. I'm like, okay. And then they called me and said, well, you got to go in for it anyway. I said, okay. And I remember it was on Olympic Boulevard. And I just moved. I was like my first week out here. And I got lost, man. I'm going towards downtown LA. I'm going like, what the hell? And I'm getting so frustrated. And I love New York City. So another thing, like I kind of have this adversity towards Los Angeles anyway. And I'm like, I shouldn't have come out here. This sucks. Why are the numbers going down and not up this way? I don't know where the hell I'm going. I'm going. So I call my agent. I go, I'm not going in for this. And then she goes, where are you? And I said this. She goes, no, it changes. I said, this doesn't make sense. Why does it change after you hit the street? So I finally go back in the right direction. And I go and I think I just met the casting director. He said, yeah, your hair's short. Okay, we got something else for you. He gives me this stuff. And I auditioned on set for that. Wow. And I found out by Julian Reyes, who played my partner, that they had already they cast the role, but the guy, it wasn't working out. So they released him. So I was actually auditioned at one of the banks where they were shooting a scene for the bank robbery. Wow. And I auditioned in front of the elevator with Julian, and Catherine, walked out, stood there, watched us. Yeah. And she just went, okay, and she walked away, and I just said, okay, and I just walked away. And then they called up and they said that you got it, and then Julian said, they said they weren't going to hold cast because I was too much of a leading man, but everybody else sucked.
Yeah.
So I don't care about any of that. I was like, great, I get to work, and
that's all. That's just what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember Gary Busey. That he's a beautiful lunatic. That guy.
That's what I've heard.
he's a one of a kind. And Keanu befriended me, and he always liked to hang out at my trailer because I was playing guitar at the time. Wow. So he always just would sit in there. He goes, "Can I play a guitar?" I said, "Sure, go ahead." And he would just sit in my, he had this big trailer, this tiny thing, and he'd just sit in there and play.
Yeah.
And he's just the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. I mean, there's not a malicious bone in that guy's body.
Nice.
Wow.
That is so cool.
And there's a trivia thing. I always bring this up. So the scene where I roll up my middle finger and they run away, and for the stakeout scene,
yeah,
it's not in the TV version. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, although I will admit I haven't seen the movie in a long time.
So there's a scene where I roll up my middle finger after they walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the first person to ever do that on film. And
nice.
So right.
Everyone stole that from you now.
Yeah, because I guess Wayne's World. They said they do it in Wayne's World. They said it was done after me, and then I guess Guardian of the Galaxy, Chris Pratt did it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the story behind that is that we used to do that to each other in high school. And in that scene when they walk away and we're in the car, I did that, and Catherine walks up to me and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I explained it to her, and I said, she's going to take this away because it wasn't in the script. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, and she goes, "Okay, leave it in."
Really?
That's great.
That's awesome.
And I've had people come up to me and do that and go, when we saw that, we started to do that to each other. We loved that. Da, da, da.
We got it from you.
Isn't that funny? It's kind of like a film action that people imitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something so simple as, the director going, "Okay, leave it in."
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because she liked it. Yeah.
Wow.
It was something we did to each other in high school.
Wow.
It was just a joke you're playing after you got done. Just
Yeah,
shooting
you
the
roll
scene.
your middle finger slowly, F you type of thing. It's not
Yeah.
a lot of stuff's cut in the TV version.
Did you create any kind of relationship with Swayze at all or anything?
I just saw him one day sitting. I remember saying, "Hey, when's lunch?" And he was like, "Oh, it's over there in 15 minutes." I didn't really work with him.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean, well, because at the time, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. I mean, Swayze was a little bit more of a, might have been had a bigger head on him as opposed to Keanu Reeves at the time.
Yeah, I never got that impression from him when he was on set. No,
That's good.
I think that was like some of the best work he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, he's and the stuff I heard about him. No, he's just a down to earth, hardworking guy that he put everything into that thing. I mean, I think he wanted to really jump out of an airplane without a parachute for God's sakes or something.
Yeah, God, it's crazy.
Yeah,
and being it was 4 years after you shot Creepshow 2, so you shot Creepshow 2 in '87. This was in '91. Were you at a point in your life where you like transitioning, like moving to LA, or were you already in LA, or?
You said you were going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going back and forth, and that's when I moved here.
Okay.
Then I got dying young at that time too.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So, yeah, and I got that too. And Julia, what a smart person! Holy
Really?
God, she's smart and so curious,
Wow.
and really just down to earth. A real barstool gal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Wow.
Just
Do you still
Really-
keep a good in contact with her at all, or do you ever see her? Or?
no. I mean, if I run into her, I'll say, like, "Hey, how you doing?" type of stuff. you
But
know?
yeah, other than that, yeah,
I mean, there was a time after I did both those movies, I kept hearing my name being called by Keanu and Julia because I'd be out someplace and they'd be like, Daniel,
Really?
so sweet,
yeah,
That's cool.
Heck yeah,
and so Keanu always called me Danny Boy.
yeah.
Yeah. I always wonder what that's like. I mean, being a working actor in the Los Angeles Hollywood area, do you guys see each other like a lot around?
Sometimes it's kind of like being on campus in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? If you're ever in
Yeah, college campus
school or
yeah.
something like that, or if you live in a neighborhood and you kind of see folks, you know what I mean? You don't see them all the time, type of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It's like anything. If you work on Wall Street, you see people, and it's just you're like work friends type of stuff,
Yeah.
And there's a certain because you bond so strongly when you're doing a film. It's kind of like playing on a sports team. You know what I mean? If you've ever played on a team before,
Sure.
in 5 years or 6 years from now, if you bump into one of your teammates, there's a certain kind of bond and a feeling of being relaxed around that person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
If
yeah.
you've been through something. Am I making sense with
Yeah.
that?
Oh
No,
yeah. I've got that even when I played in like high school sports and I bump into someone, like 5-6 years later. It's been 12 years now, but
Yeah.
but it's like, oh hey man, long time no see. So
Yeah.
you feel that comfortable.
It's like
with them.
immediate rapport. It's
Yeah.
it's like it never left.
Exactly.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
hey buddy, what's up, brother?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the best way to kind of explain it. So,
Cool.
So
yeah.
I'm a little more. I know I'm backtracking a little bit here, but I'm a little curious.
Backtrack all you want.
I'm a little curious about your early days when you said that you were basically starving actors living in New York. What was sort of like your regimen back then? What kind of were you training every night? Were you going to workshop like a couple times a week, or what was that? What was that life like?
So you're interested in that
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I put some of it autobiographical in my book, and I thought that I thought I don't know if people really get that and get to kind of know about that. So that makes me feel good that you're interested in that.
No,
because
I mean,
it's,
very much
because it's
so.
in my novel. So
Oh,
it makes
good.
me feel good that people would be actually interested in that because
Makes someone read it even more now.
Yeah.
yeah, it's because like I just said, you don't really see like how I'm always fascinated with people I like how they started. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I followed after more I like the old school actors.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, you know what I mean? I would watch old movies and stuff and I would read bios about them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could have went to Los Angeles too, but I something in my persona. I wanted to, I guess, go to New York has a little more gravitas to it, and studying there.
Yeah.
No, I was acting class Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Nice.
I was in the afternoon and evening class. I was. It's funny. I write about this in my book. It's totally autobiographical.
That's great.
It's kind of like I like to, when I read, I like Hemingway and Fitzgerald and those things,
Oh,
and
sure.
even Catcher in the Rye or Bright Lights, Big City and Lesson Zero, and they're always. I've never been big into memoirs. I always like when they tell a story and fictionalize their own life and personalize something, and that's what I did with my novel. Like, and I really like those books because I like reading and going like, God, I bet he went through that or she went through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and it's about her time when she was in a mental institution. And if she didn't fictionalize it, it just probably wasn't as interesting,
Yeah.
And that's kind of so people get a feel of my book. That's what I did. I was sitting in the drama bookshop in Times Square reading plays all day and just reading as much as I could. I used New York City as a college because I didn't go to college. I was dyslexic. My character is dyslexic in the book. And I just thought New York. I said, my God, I can go to the Metropolitan Museum and go on walking tours of art, and it's like an art history course, and I can go every day and do that. And tickets for Broadway plays, you could get them for half price and stuff. And I was working as a busboy. Sometimes 8 nights a week, and I put this in my book, 8 nights a week, and I was just killing myself. No one outworked me in my class, I didn't have to go to all those classes, usually just the one or the other. And I wrote in my book too that I cleaned my acting teacher's apartment just to pay for classes. I didn't have the money,
Oh my
and I
God.
wrote about that too. So I'm glad you find that interesting because I think
Yeah.
people it will find it interesting. I also wanted to put that in there for the character's background about how much it means to them.
Yeah.
Because again, they always write like, oh, spoiled Hollywood brats, or this person is, it's fucking dehumanizing,
Oh, it totally is.
because most actors that are, successful, they have similar stories that way. I mean, some they take off really quick. And actually, I started to book stuff right away. Do you know what I mean? There's that struggle for fucking 6 years before they even book a commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I have my ups and downs, of course. So yeah, I was just consuming everything, and just learning about the history of my profession.
Yeah.
And
I think this profession you get into, you should learn, and
you
also
should.
so people know about my writing history too. I started an acting class. I wrote a monologue, and my teacher was like, and I didn't tell him who it was by, and then he finally said, "Who's that by?" I said, "I wrote it." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You keep doing that." So I started to write monologues, and then I started to write short stories, and then a couple years back, I did a Hallmark movie with Patty Duke, and I kind of fictionalized something that went on between Patty and I in the makeup trailer. And that it's called Facelifts and Cigarettes, and that was published in a really good literary magazine called The 34th Parallel. And it's a flash fiction story, which it's only like 2 pages, and I want to write a story that has a beginning, middle, end, and a twist. And it has a theme about American rugged individualism. So I've been publishing that, and then I got into I also submitted some stuff to get in this UCLA advanced fiction program, and I got into that. So it's not like I've never done this before, too.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like I really, I really worked hard at learning the craft, and I love to read literary criticism and stuff like that, and doing research and everything,
Wow.
So, but I've always been I've been doing that at the same time. And it's a different ballgame. You don't need a bunch of people. You can just sit down and do it. It's the most cost-effective way to tell a story is to to write a piece of literature, you know.
Have you thought about or had any interest in transferring that over to like, you know, screenplay writing or getting into writing films?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I don't think this book would make a movie unless some great producer got a director on it, but I think could make a TV show.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be because the character he's a moral character in an immoral place.
Mm-hmm.
There's scenes with just nuts stuff happens, and he actually has morality and won't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not condescending towards those people that won't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he's at Hollywood parties where there's drugs and everything going on. You know, there's a scene with a female producer in the bedroom type stuff. You know, there's all all kinds of stuff like that, and he's trying to find his footing in it's kind of this immoral world, and he has morality, and that's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah.
So, you know, and with this, you know, with his dead sister walking around with him. So I could maybe see it as, you know, a TV show, maybe like that, because it's a character piece. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, but if if it sells 2 million copies, they'll make it into anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, but I have another book that I'm, working on, and other, screenplay ideas and stuff like that too. So, but I'm really just trying to focus on getting this to see the light here.
Would you say that you're at all shifting more towards writing, or are you still trying to stay busy on the acting front too?
Yeah, no, I still audition, still doing that stuff, and I have access to film financing stuff too.
Nice.
Getting that too. You have to diversify.
Yeah, that's great that you're doing both.
People, my God, actors have clothing lines, for God's sakes. They're producing musicians. You know what I mean?
They have colognes and perfumes too. Yeah.
You just have to diversify. So
yeah, well, that's great that you're doing writing and acting, and two things that you love to do.
It's also I have these. I have. Well, you're right, because you have something to say, right? And I have something to say about Hollywood and about this time in your life and everything, about in your 20s. But I just have experiences like that experience with Patty Duke. I walked out of there and I just said, I gotta turn this into a short story.
Yeah.
What I was just talking about with Patty Duke, I have to turn this into, whether it's Patty Duke or anybody else.
Yeah. And
let me tell you, she is fantastic. We stuck to each other for 2 days. She told me all kinds of stories and stuff, and Hollywood is amplified. So it's an interesting setting. You know what I mean? Like, everything's a little bit larger than life type of stuff.
Yeah.
If I wrote about the stories Patty Duke was telling me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because there's such wealth out here, and it's a thing of extremes,
Sure.
And I just get in these situations. I'm like, this is just overwhelming. I have to write about it because I'm not going to act it out. They're not going to make a movie of it.
But you need to put it on paper right now.
Yeah, people, have things in their lives, and they've seen things, and they go, "Wow, that's really something." You know what I mean? And they tell a friend. I kind of go, I can tell a friend about the story, but I kind of go like, God, this would really make an interesting story, and I think the theme of this story would be blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Well, what?
So. Yeah, if that makes any sense to you.
No, it does. It does.
It definitely does.
It's like it's too good not to get out there somehow.
Yeah, I mean,
you had to put it out there. Yeah.
In the silence of remembering, I being out here in Hollywood, you see messed up people, and I went through a really messed up time, just personally, my stuff and up and down, and I really came to the conclusion it's about integrating your trauma in your life, which is your dark side, with who you are now. My story is about this integration. He's got to integrate this past trauma and the stuff and the secret in his family. And if you don't grieve about something, you're not going to get on with your life,
Yeah.
So I hope it touches people and they go, I think I have to deal with stuff, because great books or great movies or great, poetry or something like that, it kind of makes you think about stuff like that. And it's a story about integration, and that's what I thought. I thought, God, these people, I see people been to parties and I write about it, where people just doing massive drugs and they keep doing it and stuff and going on. I'm going like, they're not dealing with something in their life.
Yeah, no, it's
And
true.
at this point in this character's life, he is forced to deal
Deal with it.
with it. And he is just forced to deal with it. All these things start to happen that force him to deal with this. And that's what happened to me in my life.
Wow.
I was forced to deal with it. And I said, I'm going to put this down on paper too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
You know,
just
and
go.
that's when
Yeah.
that's when you kind of can get a better grasp on stuff, more complete person when you can become more integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, that's one of the.
Well, did
know.
you find like when you were first starting out, and obviously you started writing almost from the beginning at the same time you're starting to act, and you mentioned, and I read too in your biography that you were an athlete, and I can relate a little bit on the boxing front. I train every now and then. I've had a couple MMA fights just for fun, but
Well, that's impressive.
yeah, it's
For
been
fun?
Well, it's been I
Fun?
was
Yeah.
taking it seriously for a minute, but it's been about a year and a half since my last fight, but.
That's impressive.
Hey, thank you, but no, I wanted to bring it up because I mean, I'm sure a lot of people struggle with dedicating themselves to a trade like that. I mean, once you knew that you wanted to write and act, was it like, did you stop being an athlete? Sort of, were you still playing basketball? Were you still boxing at all, or how did that go down?
No, I mean I'm really hyper, and you can call it ADHD, and I'm
That's
really
a good
hyper
thing.
and stuff. And it's funny, like the writing, I can actually sit there and focus for a while, which I guess happens with people with that they can kind of focus in on something. I just have a ton of energy, and it was a way for me to work off some of the energy, and also I never really got into drugs, and I needed a form of escapism. And playing sports was a way to escape without having to do drugs. For some reason, I just never went down the drug path. I just
While
it was
some
all
of your
it
friends
was all-
did. Yeah.
yeah, it was just all around me, but I just didn't. And also, I was such a good basketball player that it was a place where I could empower myself, where no matter how shitty my life was, I could step on a basketball court and feel powerful. And that with escapism was a real driving force. Also, I love being the only white guy playing ball in New York
Yeah.
City, being exposed to another
Rocking it.
culture.
Yeah,
You know,
I bet.
I played in the Bed-Stuy-Iverson Brooklyn Pro League. I was the only white guy in that league, and my teammates said, "You have to go in there with us. If you go to the store to get a soda, somebody's got to come with you."
Wow.
And I loved it. You know what I mean?
Great experience.
I just love different cultures.
Yeah.
People ask me, "How do you know about this culture and that culture?" I go, "Well, I lived in New York City and I immersed myself in it." No, athletics and just working out, it keeps me sane. I mean, I still work out 6 days a week, but I don't play basketball anymore. I don't want to get injured.
Yeah.
And I played in the NBA Entertainment League. I did a bunch of commercials while I played basketball. I made money from it. I could write. I may write some short stories about playing basketball in New York City and being the only white guy and everything like that. All
That would
those
be-
those things that happened to me.
That'd be interesting.
And I fought in one exhibition in front of some people, and that was just a tremendous experience. It's also a thing where you go, I'm just one of those people. I'm going like, I have an opportunity to do this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it didn't take away or anything like that. Also, I read, Laurence Olivier said to actors, you have to keep in physical shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
know?
I totally
Keep
agree.
healthy,
I
keep in
agree.
physical shape. Yeah, I think it's a
Well, and
daily
so
routine that you should.
obviously you talked
out.
about not getting injured. Did you sort of switch? I see that you dance too. I mean, tango, right? Did you
Yeah.
switch over to that as a form of exercise too, sort of?
No, I was doing it. I haven't done it in a little while, but I did that actually after I went through a bad breakup because I was supposed to do it with my girlfriend at the time, and then I was like, I don't need a girlfriend, and I just went to this Third Street dance studio. I didn't know what I wanted to do, which one, and they said you should be a tango dancer. Finds out they didn't have enough guys, so I said okay, and it was cheaper than going to the movies, and I love learning a new skill. It was no different than learning how to box,
Yeah.
and it was just something I think that helped heal me. and I'm glad I did it because it's something like I see older people, and I just realized when I'm in my 70s, I'm going to be able to do something and meet people that's a live, interactive community, not online.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
totally.
And also as an actor, it's great to learn skills. I've auditioned
Mm-hmm.
for like commercials and auditions, where tango or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It's good to put on your resume.
That's what-
that you know how to dance.
That's what we've heard. We've continued to hear, just with us dabbling in the industry, is people just say, build out those, whenever you can, or you have the opportunity, you need to build out those skill set for anything,
Yeah.
Well, you said it right. It's a skill set.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, any of the ballroom dances. It's so good for you, and it's just fun to get out there and to learn something new. And women love it, man.
Yeah, they do. You know how to tango? Oh my god.
It's almost
I
like
do too.
talk about superheroes. It's almost like you're the real life Clark Kent because nobody thinks that of you, and then when you say you can do that, they look at you like you just turned into Superman or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're,
And also, people that are doing ballroom dances, they look like the guy that works at the local diner.
yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden then he whips his apron off and starts
Yeah, and that's another thing where they turn
throwing
into
some dance moves.
a cliche, and it's like, I'm sorry, but if you go to a tango thing, watch them dancing, they're not dressed in black with roses in their mouth.
No, not at all. They're ordinary people.
That's crazy.
Jesus.
So you grew up in New York City? Is that right?
I was born in Germany, and I grew up
Okay.
in mostly in upstate New York, and then New York City. And also I use it as the character's background, too.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So your family moved from Germany to New York, upstate, and then you.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I got to write about that because my family thing, it's really, really kind of complicated.
Mhm.
It's people won't even.
I did read a lot of shit in your bio about great grand. I mean, it was pretty interesting though. So
Oh, my German lineage about that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I have my great uncle was the first president of Germany. So yeah, I actually have a family tree that goes back to the 1400s in German.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
We're actually German too.
yeah.
Our dad's side is German, and
Although we don't know any German or anything like that. So
no,
don't-
your
we
people
don't.
came over the boat probably in the 1890s or 1800s, right?
yeah. So
our last name means beans in
Apparently.
in German.
well, you
language.
speak German, right?
So,
Actually, I just started to teach myself German like a year and a half ago, and that's a whole nother story why I did know German all along. That's a whole nother.
yeah, that's a whole nother book to open.
Skill set, right? Part of the
Yeah.
skill set.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a skill
and
set.
for personal reasons I wanted to do it too.
Yeah.
So- And also, you can see probably why I write too. It's a way. Because I've just had just my life and my childhood, just everything. It's a real doozy. It's a way for me to kind of, I think, to get control of it and to assimilate it too. So,
Oh yeah.
and I'm sure other writers when they write, Richard Wright and James Baldwin and those writers, and that type of writing, Terry McMillan, everything. They're all writing kind of about their life and their view on the world and their take on their opinion on stuff. So yeah.
Well, I really like your take on sort of the fictional autobiography because, I mean, that just makes me want to read it more.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I kind of thought about that. I thought about just other writers. If you name a writer that you like, they're writing kind of. I mean, Mark Twain is Huck Finn. Because he's writing about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great
Other
comparison.
writers that are writing, other more genre and plot driven things like action things or detectives or mysteries or horror stuff. It's different, but they still put themselves in it in a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They can't help it.
They're writing from first person what they have experienced.
Or what they want to experience.
Or
I
what
mean,
they
their
want
thing
experience.
is the kind of the plot catharsis, and mine is more of a character personal catharsis. Character has to go through a catharsis, and it's more and it's an emotionally, plot driven in a way. And one of the things is you don't know how it ends. With plot driven books, you're kind of like, or with comic book movies, you go like, they're not going to blow up the world. Trust me. I know you think
Yeah.
that's the way it's thing, but believe me, they're going to save the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, in this thing, you know, Twigs is in purgatory, and she's going, you know, and if Alex doesn't forgive himself, she may not go to heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you don't know by the ending of the book if she does or she doesn't, type of
Yeah.
thing.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is that kind of tension and she's trying to get him to realize.
Yeah,
I mean, she's because you to forgive himself, and in this type of book, the character finally, you know, has to surrender to a power greater than themselves, and that power is usually his humanity and other people's humanity, you know. But she's like getting frustrated, going like, you know, you know, you have to face this, you have to deal with this.
and she's like there, you know, obviously sees him, but he can't see her, and she wants to help him.
So you
and,
think through it when you read it, you know, that's what you kind of think.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't want to. I didn't want it to be like in the classic Jimmy Stewart Harvey thing, where he's talking to an imaginary rabbit, which is a great movie, or Heaven Can Wait, where he's talking to with Warren Beatty, where he's talking to somebody. I mean, those movies helped me get an idea about how to do it, but I didn't want it to be like that, because then the person would be 5150 if he's walking around talking to an imaginary person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
because he has no idea that she's there at all.
Does she really exist or doesn't she exist? And she starts to ask herself, do I really exist or don't I exist?
Yeah.
The stuff, you know? And I think people are smart enough to get that. You know what I mean? I don't think it has to be, you know, cliched, you know? So, and she's kind of a metaphor too about the whole, about his, about the themes I'm trying to, or that I did bring home. So, you know, but yeah, there was a thing in my life where I just, I needed somebody to talk to, so I kind of made up someone.
Yeah.
And I think people do that, where they kind of make up someone or someone they lost, or
I did it when I was a kid, for sure.
what did you do? Did you do it?
Yeah, I had like it's actually a weird story. I don't know how old I was at the time. Probably only like
30?
no, probably like 10 or 12. But it freaked my parents out. I actually and what I come to find out, I think I was like thinking of my subconscious or of myself, talking to myself. But I would think of this woman. I don't know why. It sort of resembled my mother in my mind, and I would call her the one. And so I would tell my mom, oh, I was just talking to the one, or the one said I should do this, or the one thinks this. And it was sort of like this imaginary friend type thing, and it freaked her out for a minute, and I guess you could say I sort of grew out of it, or sort of realized this is just sort of my inner monologue, you know. And but
That's
I
kind of exactly what I did.
yeah.
How old were you?
I think I was like 10 or 12, so pretty
It's
young.
funny. My character, everything happens. The trauma happens when he's going from 12 to 13.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
Same age range, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a reason why for that too. 'Cause you're going into puberty around that time
Yeah,
too.
you are.
yeah.
You are, and you're feeling more feelings and
It's everything
things going through your mind, and yeah.
Yeah, I see. I had night frights. I write about it in the book too. Night terrors,
Oh yeah.
which is you know too. Yeah. So you got comfort by saying that. You want me to psychoanalyze that?
Sure.
I had a feeling you were. I had a feeling you needed some kind of comfort, and you probably weren't getting it from your mom. So you invented something for her, you know, to get from her. See, I don't think anybody's had a perfect childhood.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean. And you know, and I obviously I wrote about that. And you write about how you have to come to a forgiveness about it, and a forgiveness about yourself too, and that stuff. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. So you had the one and talking to somebody. Well, I actually made up somebody I was going through a really hard time when I was in my 30s.
That's good. That's
Well,
cool.
That's even better. Like, I actually have like I
You know, I
even
wasn't
talked
talking about talking, but I was kind of like, actually, it was me and my younger self.
Okay.
So you're
Hey,
picturing
but,
yourself
like,
as a
because
younger.
because I saw these things. What would you say to your younger self? You know what I mean? You know, I mean, you're nuts if you don't realize that you're making it up. You know what I mean? If you really think the person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and it was all about kind of what I just said to you. It was for comfort. It was also
Calming factor, yeah.
yeah. Also, I felt alone. Maybe you felt alone in your house at that time with your parents. You know, you felt lonely or something like that, and it was I needed thing to give me some strength and everything like that. And I don't think that's too far fetched. I think people do that a lot. You know, I talk to myself a lot anyway. And I just read something that people talk to themselves. It's actually a way for them to organize their feelings and thoughts, and it's actually a sign of intelligence.
Okay.
Which I'm like, thank God, because I talk to myself.
Yeah.
A radio in my car I've never fixed because I like to be in my thoughts and talk.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, all you fucking crazy lunatic fans out there?
Yeah.
Keep talking to
Look,
yourself.
all the horror fans are going like this. Oh my God, I do that all the time. It's
Yeah.
like, man, fuck.
The actual radio in my car is broken too, and I always talk to myself. So I thought I was the only one. That's
What's
awesome.
that? What'd you say?
My car radio is broken too, so I always talk to myself in my car too, or sing to myself or do something. So I'm glad that you do it too, and there's a bunch of people that we aren't the only ones.
Problem solving. That's what I'm doing. I'm problem solving. I'm either sometimes I'll come up with voices and accents, or just I'll think of the scenes or writing. I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to music. It will interfere with this.
Yeah.
I'm having much more fun up in my head and talking out loud to myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my Scottish accent in my head right now by saying some dialogue that I heard.
Yeah.
When I get even bigger in my career, you're going to use this and just kill me with it, aren't you?
Yep.
Exactly.
Check out this interview about how Daniel Beer was a nutcase.
Yeah.
No.
Driving in his car, coming up with all this stuff. Talking to himself.
People love that stuff. People love listening to this stuff.
Well, people just like to relate,
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I think that's what this book's going to be about. The Silence of Remembering. It's all about relating. I think it's from the first chapter that I read. I'm intrigued to get the book and read it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
is there? I guess let's start to wind some things down. But I mean, are there any final points or thoughts you want to get out about the book to someone who might be interested in reading it? That's sort of a tough question, but
No. I don't know. I think I did a pretty good.
yeah, we have.
Did you think I did how did I do a good? Did I do a good job of?
Yeah, no,
trying
I
to
like
convey it because it's since it's what we all talked about, and it's not like it's a book about people from Pluto coming and to Earth and you have 48 hours to live and before if they don't come up with this magic DNA solution to kill up the Plutonians, you know what I mean? And I have nothing against that stuff, you know what I mean? But it's a little bit more that that's kind of plot stuff to talk about. So
I think we portrayed it great with talking in the very beginning when what we just covered now.
Oh, I know. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I wrote something where the book and these types of book exposes you to people and places and emotions and ideas that you might not otherwise experience.
Yeah.
And I think people read this, they'll have an emotional experience that way, but they'll also experience of what it's like to be in Hollywood. And also the character goes home and dealing with the family type of stuff,
Yeah.
So I just think they're gonna, have that experience, especially the Hollywood thing too.
Speaking of that, are you doing anything currently that you want to tell our listeners? Any shows or any kind of short films or?
Well, if I were
any
to tell you that, you'd never have me on the show again. So
Yeah.
so why don't we make a deal that if I'm doing something. That I can come back on the show and we can talk about whatever TV show or movie or whatever else. And we can talk about other stuff
awesome,
too.
man.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? TV shows that you like or whatever.
Yeah.
TV shows or movies.
And that's actually a sort of a fun. We've discussed this before, but haven't taken action on it yet. Is having like a guest celebrity on, but while we're reviewing a movie and giving their thoughts on it too, or something.
Well, I'll tell you
That'd be
what.
awesome.
Next time that if I have when I have a film or TV show or come back on and something
the
happens.
movie that you're in, yeah.
Focus more with this book. You can. I'll be your guest person and we can talk about that And believe me, I'm opinionated, and I can give and I can talk about a lot of things.
That's what we want. That's what we want on our show. That's exactly what we need.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That was part of the thing of all of that reading and watching stuff or whatever is you want to be a good conversationalist. Also in work, when you're on a set and everything like that, there's a shorthand, so you want to educate yourself. Like the director say, this character is like Steve McQueen in The Getaway, or like Humphrey Bogart, or this guy's like Sam Malone in Cheers, or this person is like this or that or this. And that's the point of educating yourself with that stuff.
That's a great point you brought up. We do a weekly acting class, and we were like literally just the other night we're in Denver, and they film a lot of stuff in New Mexico.
Yeah, I did a film in New Mexico.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a gory film. What was it called? Organism or something like that, with Jonathan Sheck.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I get shot. I'm in a flashback scene playing his father. He's a little boy, and I get shot in the head.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. New Mexico is great.
Wow.
What is it? Albuquerque. What's the other one? Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Santa Fe is great.
yeah,
So
we were
there?
yeah. Well, no, we were just talking in class the other night because a lot of people in the class are going down to do. It's mainly like background or guest star work on like Better Call Saul or some of the shows that AMC films.
Guest star work is great. Co-star work is great. Even background work. I mean, what the hell else are you doing, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do when you're in Denver,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So yeah, they were just saying how you'll show up and they'll say something like, oh, we want this character to be, it's like a mix of this guy from Breaking Bad and this guy from this TV show, and so you better be up on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also really great directors. They use frame of references from like classic old films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like black and white classic old films.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sort of leads me to
Public Enemy.
Before we
Right.
do wrap up, I wanted to ask you. Obviously you talked about liking a lot of the classic films and everything. What would you say are maybe your like top 3 favorite films and top 3 favorite actors?
Okay, like in the horror thing.
You know what?
I tell you, why don't we do? Can I do genre? Like in the
Yeah,
horror
let's
stuff?
do genre. Let's do
The
genre.
recent one that I really liked was The Conjuring, because it reminded me of the '70s horror movies like The Omen and Damien and that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
And there was a lot of suspense in that. And
Yes, it was.
I don't like just blood on the wall, that horror porn. Even in the raft, there's suspense because we're stuck on this raft, and you're going like, are these? You know what I mean? There's this, and that's good story making.
Mm-hmm.
So I think recently The Conjuring, but to go back to older, stuff, any of those '70s movies, and I'm a wimp when it comes to horror. So I just I close my eyes.
That's great.
Action movies, I love The Getaway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
With
yeah.
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
I think he's the best action guy. I loved Amadeus.
Oh,
The director's cut was really great. The director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
I'd tell you a funny story. Who's the lead actor in that again? What was his name?
Amadeus.
Who played Amadeus?
Yeah, you gotta
Played
look it up
Mozart?
real quick. Yeah, with the funny laugh and everything. Yeah, I can't.
So when I first moved to LA, there was this nightclub, and this is one of the things where I write in my book about this kind of feel, what goes on. And I had like all access to this really popular nightclub, and was it Stoltz? His last name?
Scotty's looking it up right now.
Here it is.
So anyway,
Yeah, it's
this
Tom, is it Hulse? Tom Hulse?
yeah, Tom Hulce. Yeah. So
Yeah,
anyway,
Tom Hulce.
and this guy's like, he's a Broadway, like this guy's a real deal. I mean,
Yeah.
he's huge. And this was when I first moved out here in the early '90s, and nobody knew who the hell he was, and he doesn't look like Joe hip Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't let him in to this
Wow.
club, and I had like I had the hook up there, and and I said, yeah, he's coming in with me, and I said, and I think he had just won the Academy Award too. It was nuts.
Wow.
And
That's
I
great.
kind of write about this stuff in my book. It was just nuts.
Jeez.
Nuts. And that's the other thing. The other thing I want to mention in my book is that this guy has all this stuff going on and these secrets, and he's becoming famous and having to deal with publicity and fame And I write a lot about that because I kind of dealt with that and dealing with like, interviews and people finding out about your life type of stuff and specifics and everything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that's really I've never read anything how people really touched upon that, you know?
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
anyway, Amadeus, The Getaway,
You said the Conjuring.
I just watched To Catch a Thief for the first time. I'm embarrassed to say, with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. That thing holds up.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
I haven't either.
So
Boy, that holds up. It really holds up. The plot in that thing is just great, and it holds up. It's some of those old movies.
yeah.
I know that they're you got to watch them, but I'm like, holy God, this thing is just boring, and the camera work is
It's just horrible.
it is dated, you know what I mean, compared to
Yeah.
what now. But things like Catch a Thief and Bringing Up Baby and that stuff, they really hold up.
Catch a Thief. I'll put that one down.
It Happened One Night, which is the first ever romantic comedy, and that holds up. I don't know if you knew that, but it Happened One Night with Clark Gable is the first ever romantic comedy.
Wow. I did not
Yeah,
know
it
that.
won the Academy Award, and Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert were loaned out to do that movie, and it was kind of like a low-budget movie at the time, and they thought nothing of it, and it became a huge hit and the first ever romantic comedy.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's a great one. So,
So who are your three favorite actors or actresses? Actors?
Yeah, either one.
well, I think Daniel Day-Lewis is just tops.
Oh
yeah.
God, yeah, he's
Gotta
great.
love him.
I mean, I'll go see anything just to see what he's doing.
I love him too.
Yep.
Major method actor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just he's just really really dynamite. And Meryl Streep, of course, is one of the greats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I've always loved Cecily Tyson because I remember watching her in Sounder when I was a kid on TV.
Huh.
I just thought she was an emotional powerhouse, and I just really believed. I've been being really little, because I didn't have a movie theater by me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to watch everything on TV and reruns or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Cecily Tyson. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, her just being really, just the depth and everything like that. I got to meet her pretty recently too,
Huh.
and I got to tell her that, and she was like, blushing. So,
That's
but Sounder, great. She's great in that. And Sounder, come on, a little boy watching Sounder, that was great. That movie,
Wow.
about a boy and his dog. Sure.
Wow.
I'm writing all these down.
Yeah, I
Sounder.
haven't seen that either. So,
But there's a ton of good actors, and I think those actors from the 20s and 30s and everything like that, I don't think they're dated at all. I mean, Humphrey Bogart is very minimalistic. He's great. I tell you, the greatest one, and of course there's Brando, of course, but the greatest actor ever that had the most amount of presence ever is Greta Garbo. When she is not saying anything, it is unbelievable how magnetic she is.
Wow.
And just if you I could just watch her sit in a cafe looking at a spoon. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
That
she's just
engaging.
she's
Wow.
just the depth in that person. I'm just like, holy God, I've never seen anything like this.
Wow.
You know,
That's awesome.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
good question.
I wrote those down. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm gonna go IMBD some people after
Cool.
this now.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's sort of wrap things up. I think we covered a lot of shit.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah, we
This was
talked
a
for a
lot
while.
of fun,
I told you I
man.
would. You guys are great. You made me feel really comfortable. You got me be a blabbermouth.
Yeah.
No,
No,
that was
Daniel. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the idea. We want to just have a cool conversation. I think we
Yeah.
accomplished it.
And have you talk a lot with us collaborating, and we wanted to get it out
It's a
there.
good
so.
time.
Great. I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, so we'll wrap this up, but definitely you guys, cultclassichorror.com/beer forwards right to his book on Inkshares there.
The silence of
You
remembering.
you can find me on my Facebook fan page, Daniel Beer, and I have stuff posted on there about it. And if you like behind the scenes stuff with the movies I've done, especially Creepshow 2, I was the only guy that brought a camera to the set, and I have all my photos up there on one of my photo albums on
Nice.
my Facebook fan page, and all kinds of behind the scenes stuff, photos that are really funny. So
Great.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Look up Daniel Beer on Facebook, guys.
Check-
Like his Facebook fan page.
Yeah, check out the pictures. And yeah, so definitely go to the website, pre-order the book. After you pre-order it, send us your receipt and we'll enter you to win some free stuff from us. And yeah, so, God, I mean, that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Danny.
having me aboard, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, cool, man.
Definitely.
Everyone, thanks for joining us, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Have a great one.
Later. Thanks, everyone.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.